Okay. All right. How's everybody doing? My name is Jimel, and I'm the president of the Wilkes NAACP. And I'm here with State Representative Austin Davis for a fireside chat. I just want to thank Mr. Davis for coming out tonight and having this conversation with us. I'm so excited to just dive in and get going here. So, Mr. Davis, just please introduce yourself and just give us a little quick bio, how you were brought up and where you're from and how you got to this point.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. President, for having me today. I'm grateful to be here to talk to all the folks in Wilkes-Barre there at your NAACP. I got my start, my start happened when I was 16 years old. I currently am a state representative for Pennsylvania's 35th legislative district. I represent the Mon Valley communities right outside of the city of Pittsburgh in southwestern Pennsylvania. But I got involved in government and public service when I was 16 years old, and I went to a McKeesport City Council meeting, and I realized there were two things that really stuck out to me. One, there was no elected official that looked like me, and there was no one near my age serving an elected office. And I thought for a diverse community like McKeesport, people of color should have a say and have a seat at the table. So that led me to start the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council when I was 16 years old. With a series of classmates to take on the issue of gun violence in my community. I went on to work, to go to school after I graduated at the University of Pittsburgh and got a job working for County Executive Rich Fitzgerald as a senior policy advisor, and worked on every public policy you can think of, from our health department to managing his appointments to boards and authorities and serving as a government relations liaison to our local elected officials. I spent a lot of time representing him in different parts of the county and working on public policy issues in his administration. But back in 2017, my predecessor in the State House resigned this office and was moving on to do some different things. And I decided that I wanted to run. I wanted to run for state representative to represent the community that I grew up in and that I still live in and call home till this very day. And there were two things that really motivated me. One, to make sure that people of color had a seat at the table. Before I was elected, there had never been an African-American elected to a state house district in Western Pennsylvania outside of the city of Pittsburgh. I was thrilled that I was able to break that barrier and become the first Black person elected to state representative outside of the city of Pittsburgh. And so that really is how my journey got started. And I really got in this because, I love the community that I grew up in. I love Pennsylvania, and I wanted to make a difference to make it a better place, not just for my family, but for your family, and which is really what led me to run for lieutenant governor this year.
Thank you for that. So you talked a little bit about that Mayor Junior Advisory Board. Like, how was that? Just taking a leap so young, and what do you think? How do you think that position prepared you for where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really sowed the seed of public service. I think it really gave me a good perspective on what it means to serve people and to try to make a difference in your community when you see a problem, instead of waiting and asking for somebody else to try to solve the problem, that you can roll up your sleeves and try to be a part of the solution. And so that really sparked off what I think is a lifelong calling to be of service to people. I got in this because I wanted to make other people's lives better. I wanted to solve a problem in my community. And that is what drives me till today. And I think serving on that Mayor's Youth Advisory Council really what got that started. It taught me collaboration, which often I have to do as a legislator and elected official. It taught me how to work with other folks. And it taught me how to be pragmatic, right? How do we have a lot of big issues, and sometimes politics and public policy is not a zero-sum game. Sometimes we have to make decisions to make progress, even though that progress may not necessarily get us all the way to our end goal, but it may get us to a better place than where we're at today. And so I think it taught me a lot of lessons that I carry with me today in government. And I would encourage any young person who might be watching this to never think that you're too young to make a difference. When I was elected state representative at 28 years old. At that time, I was the youngest state legislator in the Commonwealth. And so, young people can make history.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I'm sure the young people will definitely be inspired by that message as well. You said you were one of the younger legislators when you were the youngest period
Yes.
when you were elected. How was that? With those intergenerational relationships. I'm asking because a lot of times the younger generations, when we're getting involved in things that are unfamiliar to us and spaces that aren't familiar to us, we may be overshadowed. And you were able to shine. So how was it for you navigating that space?
Yeah, well, it's definitely different. Most of my colleagues were a lot older in a lot of cases. A lot of them were, in some cases, my parents' age. But, I think, one thing that I did early on was I listened. I tried to, and I still try to listen and put myself in the other person's shoes, right? And I've discovered people tend to be really helpful when you listen to them and when you consider what they have to say. Even at the end of that conversation, if you may not agree or may decide to go in a different direction, people are usually happy that you took the time and showed them the respect to listen. And so, in the first year in office, I spent a lot of time meeting with my older colleagues and listening to them and traveling the Commonwealth and seeing the communities that they represented. Because one of the things you learn pretty quickly as an elected official, most people who serve as a state legislator or elected official really are trying to do what they believe is in the best interest of their community, or what they perceive their community wants them to do. And so when you leave your own little bubble or your own piece of the world and you go and see what it's like in other places of the Commonwealth, it gives you a different perspective on why people do certain things. And so I think that was really helpful for me. I would encourage any young person who is in public service, or really any young person who has some level of success, right, to really be humble in that success. To listen more than you talk, and I think you'll see very quickly that will pay dividends.
Right, absolutely. So let's get into just the beef of what you do now. Some people just may not be familiar with what it is you do, some of the things that you advocate for. So dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, so right now I'm running for lieutenant governor here in Pennsylvania, and I'm running because I want to be a strong governing partner for Josh Shapiro, but I'm also running because I want to be a fighter for working class families here in Pennsylvania. That's deeply personal to me. I come from a working class background. I'm the proud son of a union bus driver and a hairdresser. My parents worked extremely hard to make sure that my sister and I had every opportunity to succeed. And I think Pennsylvania should be a place where every young person has that same opportunity. And it should be a little easier for working class families to get ahead. So that is really what I focus most of my work on as a state legislator and as a candidate for lieutenant governor, making sure that Pennsylvania is a place where we're creating family sustaining jobs, making sure that every child has access to a fair and efficient education system here in Pennsylvania, regardless of their zip code. And to make sure we're creating ladders of opportunities for folks to pull themselves out of poverty, to join the middle class, and to live the American dream here in Pennsylvania. So that is the basis of everything in which I operate as an elected official and as a candidate. I've worked tirelessly to bring jobs back to my district and create new jobs and tap what is an older former steel mill industrial town into new and emerging economies like cannabis manufacturing. And so, just trying to make sure that we're dealing with quality of life issues here in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. I had just looking up, I seen that you were a part of some recent grants as well in your area. I think they were with some EMS companies and different things like that. And so was that like a part of some of the caucuses and the committees that you're a part of?
Yeah, so one of the really important jobs of the legislator is to go and advocate for resources to bring back to your district. I serve on the House Appropriations Committee, which for all intents and purposes is the budget committee. It serves Every piece of spending that leaves the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania goes to this committee. And by being a member of that committee, it's given me the opportunity to fight for resources that my community needs. So EMS grants for public safety folks is one thing. Another important topic is gun violence reduction. We worked to bring back $1.3 million to help combat gun violence in our communities. We work to take the Gun Violence Reduction Initiative grant program from a $5 million line item to a $35 million line item in 4 years to make sure we're really fighting to stem the tide of gun violence, not just in my community, but across Pennsylvania. So my seat on the House Appropriations Committee has given me a direct impact in helping to fund those priorities. And so as Lieutenant Governor, though, that I will have a bigger say in the administration, working with the governor to help direct funds that are a priority to working class families and low income communities here in Pennsylvania.
So one second. So we talked about some of your committees and your caucuses. But can you get into like some of your stances on redistricting?
Yeah. So Pennsylvania is going through the legislative redistricting process right now. I co-sponsored legislation to create an independent redistricting reform commission to really take the redistricting process out of the hands of elected officials in Harrisburg and put it in the hands of the people here in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, that did not pass. But I do think the legislative maps that are poised to be enacted into law represent a much fairer set of legislative districts than the current maps we're living under now. For years, the Republican majority has had a baked-in majority by virtue of the way they drew legislative districts here in Pennsylvania. I think we had the maps that came out create a much more balanced and equitable approach to the two parties in terms of control of the legislature. It's still a Republican-leaning map, but only by I think 1 or 2 seats. So I think it represents a really fair map for all of Pennsylvania, and one in which elected officials are going to have to compete for control of the General Assembly. And so I think that's all really what voters want. They wanted to have free and fair maps so that their voices were heard in this process.
Right. Absolutely. So piggybacking off of that, so in Wilkes-Barre, Luzerne County, we have a lot of people that are just interested in police reform and just a transparent relationship with the city and the police. What is your thoughts on how we can move forward with police reform?
Yeah, so if you remember a couple of years ago, there were a group of legislators who took over the speaker's rostrum in Harrisburg and did a protest to demand the legislature enact police reform laws after the killing of George Floyd. I was proud to be one of those legislators on the floor who stood with my colleagues to protest to ensure that we passed common sense police reform here in Pennsylvania. And by doing that, we were able to create a police misconduct database here in Pennsylvania to track officer involved infractions so that police officers who have a tendency of being over aggressive or making bad decisions cannot just go from police department to police department without any accountability. Now hiring police departments will have full access to their personnel records, which they did not have before. I've been an advocate of police reform in the legislature. I don't know if the name Antoine Rose is familiar to you. Antoine Rose was a young man right outside of Pittsburgh who was shot and killed by a police officer. That happened right outside of my legislative district. We worked with his family to introduce a series of police reform bills. I introduced legislation to create police oversight committees for local municipalities, citizens police review boards. That's the term. Yes. Citizen police review boards here in the Commonwealth and in my county in particular. But we're going to continue to I've been an advocate for licensing of police officers, similar in a way that we license real estate agents, lawyers, doctors, cosmetologists here in the Commonwealth. And I believe we should license police officers. We create a higher standard and a base set of standards that every officer would have to meet in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Right now, that is not the case. It's a little bit different depending on your municipality, but that is something that I've been an advocate for. And look, the reality is we don't want to, we need police officers. We want the best and the brightest police officers to be serving our communities. But we also want the community to have trust and faith in those police officers and to begin to repair the relationship between police officers and the communities in which they serve, because it's a symbiotic relationship. Police officers need the community to do their jobs, and the community has to have faith in the police department in order to be properly served. And so that is something I've been an advocate for as a state legislator. I've supported legislation to create that would appoint special prosecutors for police involved shootings or police involved incidents, to take it out of the hands of local district attorneys, to have a fair and neutral arbiter investigate it. So that is something that I've been supportive of police reform measures my entire time in the legislature. And it's something that I would continue to be supportive of as your next lieutenant governor.
Thank you. All right, man. I mean, so you kind of covered high level of a little bit of everything I definitely wanted us to go over for the community. So give us one final overall sell, you know, like what can people expect from you as the next lieutenant governor?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be with you, and I look forward to seeing everybody in person next time I'm out in Wilkes-Barre, and I look forward to getting together when we all can meet. I can tell you, if I'm lucky enough to serve as Pennsylvania's next lieutenant governor, folks will get somebody who comes from a working class background, somebody who has real lived experience as a person of color, as a young Black man who grew up in a community that faces many of the same challenges that your communities face, like gun violence, like poverty, and somebody who's really committed to tackling the big issues here in Pennsylvania. And I will tell you, one of the things that I don't take lightly is the role to chair the Board of Pardons as Lieutenant Governor. You know, I think it is not lost on me that I would be the first Black person to chair that board if I'm elected Lieutenant Governor, where the vast majority of folks who come before that board look like you and I. And so they will get somebody who chairs that board with an eye towards second chances, somebody who is going to make sure we have a fair and efficient board, somebody who makes sure that the process runs better, and somebody who just gives a damn about the people who come before that board and working class people all across this Commonwealth.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I mean, I think you hit it right on the nose. I think we had the opportunity in Wilkes-Barre at our Freedom Fund banquet a couple of years ago to have Mr. Brandon Flood, who served as the secretary for the Pardons Board, and the reception from our community when they saw somebody just even being in a part of that committee, period, just that room, you could tell the optimism and their spirits were lifted, and they were trying to just get friends or some family, trying to get things situated. So absolutely. I mean, I think we definitely forgot to cover that you'd be making history.
Yes.
When you're elected, and you've been doing a lot of that as well. So, but you'd definitely be making history if you were elected as the lieutenant governor, and you'd be doing the community a justice, and you'd be making us proud. So I just
are you going to do a Freedom dinner, Freedom Fund dinner this fall?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I can tell you, I would love to be a guest at that dinner. So count me in whenever you guys get all your details squared away.
Okay, absolutely, definitely. I'll definitely let you know, and I'd love to have you out. So, all right, that sounds great. That sounds great. All right, so thank you so much for just having this conversation with me. Like I said, I look forward to just talking with you in the future, and just good luck.
Thank you. Please keep in touch, and I look forward to seeing you out there on the campaign trail.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely will.
All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.